Hey guys, here with my husband David, and today we're going to go over 9 idioms that are related to fruits. This is a follow-up to the fruit vocabulary video that we just did. The first idiom you may have heard of is comparing apples to oranges. David, what does this idiom mean?
It means that you're comparing two things that really shouldn't be compared.
Like they're so different, the comparison doesn't really work.
Right.
Apples to
Exactly.
oranges, come on. Those are two completely different fruit eating experiences.
Right. They're both fruit. That's about it.
Yeah.
You can't compare them.
No, you can't compare them. All right, let's think of an example.
So the one that I thought about was something that comes up when people discuss sports is that it's fun to compare teams from two different eras. So right now in American basketball, the NBA, basketball's gone global now, so there's basketball everywhere. But in the NBA, the Golden State Warriors are a historically good team.
They just won another.
They just won their third championship in 4 years. So
Wow.
they've won 3 out of 4.
Okay.
And so now the discussion is comparing them with other teams from other eras. And specifically, people talk about the Bulls teams from the 90s that have Michael Jordan.
Everyone knows and remembers Michael Jordan's
Pretty much a
basketball
consensus that he was the best player ever.
Okay.
But it's really hard to compare those two teams and say who is the best team of all time because the game has changed a lot. Three-point shooting has become much more common and much more important. Teams play defense in different ways. There have been obviously rule changes in the time since then. And so we can have debates about it, but comparing Jordan's Bulls to the current Warriors is like comparing apples to oranges.
Because the sport itself has changed so much.
Yeah, I think that that's a big part of it, right? And the styles that people play.
Okay, the next idiom, apples again. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Have you ever heard this idiom before? David, what does this idiom mean to you?
So to me, it's this idea that, an apple tree drops its fruit close to where the tree grew, and it means, as we use it, that a child of someone is often very similar to their parent. It means that there may be traits that are real similar, and I think, as we were getting ready, I think that it means often a negative connotation.
And I heard you say that, and I didn't really agree.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, definitely we hear it negatively. For example, if you know a grown man with a really bad temper, and maybe you see his kid is starting to develop a temper, have meltdowns, you could say, apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Right.
And that's negative, but I also think it can be used just as easily in a neutral or a positive situation. For example, as you know, Stoney has taken to music big time, singing all the time, playing drums on anything that looks a little bit like a drum. And I was the same way as a kid. I sang all the time, all the time. And then I went on to get a master's degree in opera. So I feel like with singing and me and Stoney, you could say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Okay.
And I don't think that's negative. I don't know. Maybe you think it's negative.
No, I think that's pretty neat.
You may have heard a person described as a bad apple. And this basically just means not a good person.
Yeah.
Can you think of any bad apples?
I can think of a couple, but I'll refrain.
Yeah. So someone who's very negative or not cooperative, hard to be around, or does something really terrible, is a liar, is a cheater, you could say, he's a bad apple.
Right.
Or she's a bad apple. It's not always men. There's another idiom that plays on this idea of a bad apple, and that's something like a bad apple spoils the whole bunch.
Right. I think that's from the idea that when an apple is rotting, that mold can literally spread to the next apple in the bunch. And that, to me, that comes up. I was thinking of an example. I was doing a training, and there was a group of people at a back table, and they were really disengaged. They were kind of talking to each other in the back and not just whispering, but audibly talking.
While you were trying to present
While I was
something?
presenting, and it kind of, it soured the whole room.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody then was kind of distracted and looking back, trying to figure out what was going on. And so that one bad table of people
Yeah.
kind of soured the whole room.
Yeah. Let's move on from apples to bananas. Okay, if someone is bananas, then they're crazy. It can mean like, lots of different things, right? It can mean crazy, energized. Like you could say these kids are bananas if there's a birthday party and they're all
Right.
super hyper. When else could you use it? How else would you use it?
There's another use that is more like someone is not in touch with the here and now or is having a psychiatric kind of a situation where people would say, yeah, I think he's kind of going bananas. It's not a kind or friendly way to refer to that. You would sort of only use that in very informal settings where you knew people really well. But it can mean going crazy in that sense too, like really losing touch with the here and now.
Yeah. So you could say he's going bananas. You could also say he's bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm also thinking about my friend who has some dogs, and she said when the fireworks go off for the 4th of July or New Year's or something, that her dogs are just insane. They get super scared and they're hyper all over the place.
Yeah.
And that is another thing I thought of is like those dogs are bananas when the fireworks go off. And it's too bad. She really feels bad for them because they are scared. I think they
Aw.
think their lives are ending or
Yeah.
something.
Oh.
Cherries. I just bought my first bag of cherries for the season and I'm enjoying them. And so is Stony. Okay, but cherries, there's an idiom here, and it's the phrase to cherry pick. And basically, this means to choose all of the best options. So it can be seen as sort of negative if someone comes through and cherry picks all the best options for something. Like, this is a weird example maybe, but let's say there's a buffet of food, a whole bunch of people. You know, and we're all friends and family here, and someone goes through and cherry picks the buffet and gets like all the good stuff and leaves all the rest of us friends and family with the less good stuff.
Right.
That
That's a good
person,
example.
yeah, that person cherry picked the buffet. And then the result was I didn't get the cupcake that I wanted because I was at the end of the line. That never actually happened. Can you think of another way, another example for using
Yeah.
cherry pick?
So we talk about it too in terms of political campaigns. That's what I thought about. Where in American politics, there are so many commercials that are made, and often one candidate will cherry pick some facts about another candidate to make a negative commercial or to show them in a negative light. So maybe there's 2 or 3 things about that other candidate that really stand out in a negative fashion. Instead of talking about that whole candidate's stands on the different issues, etc., they just cherry pick a couple
Yeah.
facts and make a really biting, nasty commercial.
That makes me think that that could also work well if there was an interview happening and the person who is being interviewed cherry picked the questions ahead of time. And they were like, send me the questions you're thinking about asking. Okay, you can only ask these 3 or whatever. Then that's like just picking the ones that are going to put that person in the best light
Right.
possible.
Right.
Cherry pick. Wait a second. Back to basketball. Isn't this a term for a play in basketball?
Well, cherry picking is when one person runs down the floor almost before your team even has the ball. It's kind of like hanging out at the far end
Okay.
so that as soon as we get the ball, we just chuck it down
Okay.
the field, and that person is cherry picking.
Okay, so because I was trying to read about this and I didn't quite get it, and one of the things that I read was like if you're cherry picking, you're not even playing defense.
Exactly.
Like the whole time you're just hanging out waiting
Right.
for the fast break.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Because I knew that I'd heard that in basketball terms before, but I didn't know exactly what the play was.
Yes, that's it.
Grapes, a tasty fruit and a great idiom to hear it through the grapevine. Okay, what does this mean? This means if you picture a grapevine and there are these bunches of grapes, you know, as you go down,
All connected.
all connected. If you hear something through the grapevine, that means you didn't hear it directly from the person that was affected, but you heard it from someone who heard it from someone who heard it from someone, all connected. And sometimes you don't even really know, you don't remember the person you heard it from or what their source was back to the actual person, but you heard it.
Yeah, and often the message has been passed along so many times that it's not quite accurate.
Yeah, it can change.
So you might say, well, I don't know if this is quite right. I just heard it through the grapevine, but here's what I heard.
Yeah.
Use it as a caveat.
It can be a little gossipy, right? If you hear
It
some,
implies some
yeah.
gossip. Not
Okay.
always, though.
No, not always.
I mean, because that's the example I was thinking about was we just had some friends over, and they had heard about my job change of a year ago, but not directly from me. They had heard through mutual friends. So they, and I hadn't talked to them, but they came over and they said, "So we heard through the grapevine that you have you're no longer working at the school." And I said, "Oh yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. You didn't hear it from me, but
Yeah.
that's exactly right."
So someone was talking about you, updating them on your life, said this, and then
Right,
they might not even have remembered who said that to them.
right.
But they knew
Very
they heard it
possible.
through the grapevine. This reminds me of a great song from so long ago. Do you know the song?
I do.
Okay, great song. I heard it through the grapevine. And in this song, this guy is like, I know you're going to break up with me, not because you told me, but because you told someone else and it eventually got back to me and now I know. And the guy's really sad in the song. Let's move on to something more tart. Lemons. The idiom I'm thinking of is when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, which of course is sweet, and everyone loves lemonade. Okay, so
Right.
lemons. So this is basically saying when something happens that's generally not great, you can turn it into something good. It's up to you to do that.
And lemons are sour and puckery, but if you add some sugar, you get something delicious. So the thing that I thought of was that when I'm doing well and in a good space and I get stuck in line at the grocery store, if I decide, oh, you know what, this is a great opportunity to slow down, take some deep breaths, kind of do some meditative walking, it's actually a great thing.
So you're meditatively walking while you're in line for the groceries.
Sure, when I'm in a good place. When
Okay.
I'm not, I'm feeling like throwing things.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, this is wasting my time.
It's wasting time. But
Yeah.
really, if I was going to make lemonade there, it's like, oh, you know what? I rarely get to slow down, enjoy just being around people. There are no responsibilities on me right now. I just have to stand here. I can, this is actually pretty great.
Yeah. So it's so much about how you approach a negative life situation.
Yeah.
It's like, are you going to treat it as lemons or are you going to turn it into lemonade? I was thinking about one time my computer broke. This was before I worked quite so much. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer. But actually, I realized not having a computer for a couple of days was really freeing. And so I just went with that and was like, I'm not going to answer any emails. I'm not going to check any social media. It was great. And this is also making me think about just the calling something a lemon. This is moving on to a different idiomatic use now for this word.
Oh, right.
Lemon. Like a used car could be great, could be fine, or it could be a lemon. Something that is constantly giving you problems, constantly breaking down. Can you think of any, used car I feel like is
That's really where it's used.
such a strong connection to the word lemon. But you could maybe use that. I actually think I used that once. I was on the phone with Apple. I was going to order a Apple certified used computer. Oh, I had, and there was something not working with it, and I was talking to tech support. We were working through this, and I said, I kind of feel like I got a lemon here. And they were like, you didn't, calm down. But so I also used it with that. So
Yeah.
it could be for something that's expensive, maybe that's used, or it wouldn't even have to be used, but something that's not functioning well at all, not meeting expectation or standards.
Right.
That could be called a lemon. Okay, and the final idiom, low-hanging fruit. So if you think about an apple tree, which we've already talked about with the one idiom, apple trees are big and it can take a lot of effort to get to the top. Actually, I should put in a clip of that grapefruit tree
Yeah.
from Ginny's house. Okay, so fruit from the top of the tree is harder to get than fruit from the bottom of the tree. My friend has a grapefruit tree in the back of her house, and all of the low-hanging fruit had already been picked because it's the easiest. Maybe you can just reach up and grab it without even getting any equipment, but we had to get this ladder and then this grapefruit picker to get the fruit off from the top because this tree was really tall. Anyway, this is the opposite. Low-hanging fruit is the fruit that's at the bottom of the tree that's the easiest to get. And we use this idiom to mean the easiest thing. It's often what you would want to do first. Do you have an example of this?
I do. Yeah, and I thought about my work as a therapist, and if people come in and start to do work with me and they're really depressed, one of the things that I'm going to recommend first is that they start to do some exercise or to really increase their level of exercise. We're going to get into talk therapy and we're going to maybe talk about medication. There's lots of things that you can do, but one of the
higher branches, more effort.
One of the things that no matter who we are, where we are, we always have the opportunity to exercise in some form, and there's a direct, correlation to feeling better and to our mental health. So that's low-hanging fruit for people who aren't feeling great.
Because it's easier, you can do it quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I was thinking of another example for this would be when we sit down and we're doing our budget, and if we, feel like, okay, we spent too much this month, what can we do? The low-hanging fruit would be the easiest thing to cut out. The thing that would be the least hard to give up. For example, when we order in food, I always prefer to eat at home anyway. I like going out, but if we're going to eat at home, then I want food that we've made ourselves. And so that could be an easy way to say, well, we're not getting carry out anymore. We're just going to make something simple, fast, that's going to be cheaper than ordering out. So that would be low-hanging fruit because I kind of prefer that anyway.
Good example.
Okay, guys, so those were some idioms about fruit. If you didn't see the fruit vocabulary video, be sure to check that out. You can click the link here or in the description below. Are there any other fruit idioms that you can think of that we missed? Put it in the comments below. Let us know. We'll try to define them. And if you can think of any other categories of idioms that you're curious about, let us know and maybe we can make a video about it in the future.
Be great.
Okay, guys, that's it. And thanks so much for using Rachel's English. If you want to see my absolute latest video, click here. If you're new to the channel, check out this Where to Start playlist. Click here to subscribe. I make new videos on American English every Tuesday. To be sure we can keep in touch, click here to sign up for my newsletter. You'll get free lessons in your inbox every week.